Hello Bulldogs, and welcome to your video all about the skeletal and muscular system. Friendly reminder that you are welcome to watch the videos this week and take notes, or you can read this section in the textbook. Either way, you're going to want to make sure that you are taking notes because you can use those notes on the quizzes this week. Let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so we are going to start with skeletal system, and your skeletal system in general is your body's framework. So your framework or skeleton is made up of all of the bones in your body. And since we are humans, we're studying the human body systems, our skeleton is on the inside. So since it's on the inside of our body, we refer to it as an endoskeleton. There are organisms that have an exoskeleton, like most insects actually have an exoskeleton, meaning their framework or their support system is on the outside of their body. The skeletal system has 5 major functions, and you're going to want to write all 5 of these down. So the first one is to provide shape and support. So we actually talk about this when we're talking about the shape of cells. So if you remember when we were talking about plant and animal cells don't have a skeletal system, right? They don't have bones, so they don't have anything that provides them a nice shape and support system like we do with our bones. So that is why plant cells are shaped more rectangular, right? Like a brick wall to help support them. We as animals don't have those brick or rectangular shaped cells because we have bones that provide us that shape and support. The second function of the skeletal system is to allows you to move, and obviously this only happens with the muscular system as well, which is why we're covering it in this video as well. Number 3, protects your organs. So you are probably familiar with some crucial organs in your body, like your brain is protected by your skull, your heart is protected by your rib cage, your spinal cord is protected by your vertebrae. So some of those very, very crucial organs in your body are protected by your skeletal system. Number 4, it produces blood cells. And very, very small in there is a hint, because on your quiz, you need to know that the bones do not produce muscle cells, but it does produce blood cells. So if you're watching the video, there's an answer to the quiz. And this is also a good picture, just by the way, showing where the bone marrow, which is also another answer to the quiz, that this is where the red blood cell is formed. Right there in the bone marrow. All right, number 5, the 5th function of the skeletal system, that it actually stores minerals and other material that your body needs. So your body is producing minerals and other things all the time, and it doesn't really need them. And so your body can store those things like calcium until those things are needed. Okay, so back to that part about your skeletal system allowing you to move. So your skeleton allows you to move by working with muscles, which pull on the bones. You have your bones, which are attached to your muscles, or I guess the other way around, your muscles are attached to your bones. By tendons. So if you look at this picture right here, it's pointing to a tendon, and that is how your bones move, through the contraction and relaxation of muscles. We're going to get to that in just a second. And then bones also protect many of your organs in your body. We already talked about that, but make sure you write it down. So what are some characteristics of the bones? Bones are complex living structures that grow, develop, and repair themselves. Bones are also strong and lightweight. So this is important for you to keep in mind. Bones are living, right? They're living things. When you break a bone, it doesn't say broken forever. Thank goodness, right? Because they're able to repair themselves when they're damaged. They grow. So your bones are not the same size as they were when you were a baby. So they are living structure. They're made of cells. And also, very nice thing about bones is that they're strong, right? You don't get broken bones all the time just from, like, you know, hitting your arm on a table or something like that. So they're strong. However, they're also lightweight. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for you to have super, super heavy things that you're carrying around all the time. So they need to be light enough for us to move, yet strong. Bones are made up of bone tissue, blood vessels, and nerves. Some bones produce substances your body needs. So a bone is made up of 3 main layers. The compact bone is the hard, dense part of the bone, but it's actually hollow. So even though bones feel very hard and dense, they're actually hollow. Then underneath that is a spongy bone, which is lightweight, but very, very strong. And then inside all of that is marrow, which is soft connective tissue. So the red bone marrow fills the spaces in some of your spongy bone, and that is what actually produces most of your blood cells. Just some more information here. When your 2 bones come together, anywhere where 2 bones come together, we call that a joint. And then last thing that you do need to know, fractures, sprains, arthritis, those are all disorders that could affect your skeletal system. Let's move on to the muscular system. You have 2 groups of muscles in your body, involuntary muscles and voluntary muscles. So let's talk about the difference between these 2. Involuntary muscles, these are not under conscious control. So that means it happens automatically without thinking about it. An example of this is digesting your food. So we've already talked about the digestive system, right? When you chew on your food and swallow that food, the muscle contractions in your esophagus and in your stomach and in your intestines, all of those muscle contractions are happening involuntarily, meaning you do not consciously have to think about digesting your food. You don't have to think to yourself, ooh, I need to digest that food. I need to mush it up. I need to add some more stomach acid. You don't need to think about any of that because your body system, your muscular system, does that involuntarily, happens all on its own, right? Another involuntary muscular movement is your heart, right? Your heart is a muscle, and that heartbeat is happening all on its own. You do not have to think about beating your heart. Thank goodness, right? Because if you forgot and didn't tell yourself to make a heartbeat, you would die, and that would not be great. Involuntary muscle movements, meaning that it happens automatically, you don't have to think about it. However, on the other hand, we have plenty of voluntary muscle movements. So voluntary muscle movements, meaning it is under conscious control. You can control these muscle movements. Example, smiling, or writing these notes that you should be writing right now. You can consciously choose to not write notes. Not a very good choice to make. Or you can choose to raise your hand, you can choose to stand up, you can choose to sit down. So any skeletal muscle movement, those are voluntary muscle movements, things that you are choosing to do or under your conscious control. There are some muscle movements that could be technically considered both. Can you think of what they might be? Like when I say both, I mean normally they're involuntarily, mainly they happen on their own, but if you needed to, you could control them, like you could consciously control them. Think about if you're going swimming and you need to go underwater. Breathing, right? So breathing normally with your diaphragm happens on its own, right? You don't normally think about breathing. That is normally an involuntary muscle movement. However, if you were going underwater or singing, right, there's a lot of conscious control of your breath in singing and things like that. So you can control your breath if you need to, but normally you just breathe on your own, not thinking about it. Another one is blinking, right? When you're blinking, you normally just blink all on your own. But if you were having like a staring contest or something, you could consciously keep your eyes open, which I'm pretty good at staring contests. We should have a staring contest competition or something. Okay, let's muscles are made up of 3 types of muscle tissue. The first one is skeletal muscles provide the force that moves your bones. These muscles are voluntary because you have conscious control over them. So any muscle that is attached to your bone is a skeletal muscle, and you have conscious control over them. You can choose to walk, you can choose to run, you can choose to raise your arm, you can choose to not raise your arm. Those are voluntary muscles. The second type of muscle is smooth muscle, and that is inside many internal body organs that are made up of smooth muscle tissue. These are involuntary muscles. So the stomach is a prime example of a smooth muscle. So is your small intestine, esophagus, all of those are smooth muscles. And I think of, like, I remember that these are smooth muscles because I think of the stomach as like a slimy organ. If I were to like hold it in my hand, I would think of it as a slimy organ. I don't know why I think that, but that just is what comes to mind. So if I were to actually touch like a stomach, if I were holding it in my hand, it would probably feel smooth, right? That's how I remember that it's a smooth muscle. Anyway, smooth muscles are involuntary muscles. You have no conscious control over how the stomach does its digestion, or how the peristaltic muscle contractions move the food down your esophagus, right? All of that happens on its own, involuntary. And the third type of muscle is cardiac muscle tissue. It's found only in the heart. You will not find any cardiac muscle anywhere else in the body. It is only found in the heart, and it is also involuntary, just like your smooth muscle. Muscles must work in pairs, or at least the skeletal muscles work in pairs. So the cells of muscle tissue can only contract while one muscle in the pair contracts, the other muscle relaxes. So if you are doing like bicep curls, then when you are contracting one muscle, like your bicep, then your tricep is relaxing because they work in pairs. So one is contracting, then the other is relaxing. And when the other one contracts, then the other one relaxes. They work together in pairs. And I believe that is it. Toodles.